So Sauce clearly thought that they were just making too much money. So they thought to themselves, and I really appreciate the dedication, the hard work. They thought to themselves, how can we get our customers to go somewhere else? And I think with this new trial, I think they've done it. Hey everyone, it's Night Hero here. This is a video I don't want to be making. I don't want to, talk badly. I don't want to trash the game that I play more than any other game. I don't want to trash a game that I've played for a long time. I played Arena back in the day. I've loved the Elder Scrolls games. And yeah, I don't want to be making this video. So I'm going to be looking down at my notes a little bit here, just because I want to go over some things. I want to talk about this new trial and what went wrong. Spoiler alert, a lot. So the new trial is not good. It's bad. It's really bad. I think it's probably the worst trial in the game, or will be. And I honestly don't think there's anything they can do to fix it. Maybe they could tweak some things, but I don't think they can fix this, to be totally honest with you. So the new trial has basically no group organization mechanics. There are basically nothing. We were looking, and I keep finding different groups. I've ran with 3 different groups so far, at least, with the new trial. And when we're trying to figure stuff out, and some runs are trying to be blind, even though I've seen it. So there are people like, oh, maybe we have to stack for this, or we got to do this. There's nothing that is organized. The closest thing is on the second main boss. There is a mechanic that you could maybe, I'm sure people will argue that it's a group organized mechanic. It's horrible. I'm sorry, it's horrible. It's not fun. It's difficult. When you finally get it, you don't really feel like you've done anything. You just feel like, wow, finally we got through that. We cleared the second boss in 22 minutes last night, and everybody groaned at the end. Like, that was stupid, that was long, and that was not fun. That's how we felt about it. And I think what's going to happen, and already kind of is happening, is that for really experienced players, these mechanics are going to be boring and tedious, and then for inexperienced players, they're going to be extremely difficult. Needlessly difficult, and then when they finally do get it, they're probably not going to feel like they finally got it. And the fights are extremely mobile, and what is happening is that those with less experience or just with bad connections, we had some people that were constantly having lag. I did towards the end of the trial, just having constant stuttering going on, and it's certainly not my rig or my internet. My wife had no problems, but you're going to find that people are going to be dead on the ground if they don't have experience or if they have a bad connection, because the fights are so mobile. And in groups that aren't used to being organized, it's going to be nearly impossible. But for groups that are organized, it's going to be trivial. It's not going to be that bad. So I don't know. It seems like the worst of both worlds. You're punishing new people and people that are less experienced, and you're not really making something fun for those that are used to things that are more challenging. Why would you do that? I don't know. Seems like a huge mistake. The only kind of upside to this, or kind of thing that I think maybe a silver lining, will be for some people, and I think maybe, and I'm speculating here, but I don't know what else to go off of, is that maybe ZOS is deciding that, you know what, ESO is not an MMO, at least not an MMO like everybody thinks about, an MMO, what that stands for, and that maybe they think and feel like that ESO has evolved into something where, the housing, the trading, the kind of more fun like questing and stuff like that, but not any kind of serious combat, is really what makes the game what it is. So it's kind of more like The Sims, or I don't know, Farmville, or maybe Animal Crossing or something like that, which those can be very fun games. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're one of the people that really enjoys doing all those other aspects of ESO, I think you're fine. I don't think anything has changed dramatically. I think that you'll like the new content, and I think it'll be good for you. But as far as the in-game players, the people that came in to ESO for an MMO experience to actually play with other people and in combat-oriented type stuff, I think that they're kind of, it feels like they're saying like, hey, you're a small part of the market and you're just not worth our time anymore, and we're just not going to really spend any more resources, which again is fine. I just wish they would come out and say that instead of doing this, instead of doing what they've done with the latest trial and the latest update, at least what we've seen so far. The other thing, I was talking about the second boss. People are 100% going to get kicked out of groups because of that second boss. They're going to keep messing it up. They're going to do it wrong. And probably they'll be rage quitting left and right on that one. where people just mad at the group, mad at themselves, whatever, and rage quitting. And there's other people that are going to keep doing it wrong. And you really need to be in comms, but it's also extremely difficult the way it is because you get split up into 3 different groups and it's random. So how do you even figure out which group that you're going to go into? It's going to be a cluster. It's going to add to toxicity in in-game. People are 100% going to get kicked out of group because of that mechanic. And yeah, I don't know why they did it that way. It is beyond perplexing to me why they would do it that way. And I should talk about the main thing. Whenever you first walk into the trial, the first thing you're going to have is your expectations. They're going to be up here. And as soon as you poured in, at least mine, it was like, oh God, this is terrible. You pour it in and you go to the starting area for Veteran Halls of Fabrication. Yes, it's the exact same house. At least it appears to be. Yeah, stuff has moved around. It's a different place. It's not clockwork. It's the exact same building. And that's the theme for most of the trial. Once you actually go into the trial, then you find yourself in maps that you've already been on. You find yourself in Alinor. You find yourself in Hrothgar. And that's what over 2/3 of the trial is finding yourself in maps that you've already seen, we've already been in. They spent 0 resources, or maybe a little bit more than 0, but they're basically the exact same maps. You're walking through, Necrom, right? We saw all these cool artwork. There is cool artwork in Necrom, but they didn't set the trial there. The most, coolest, highest in-game thing, they didn't bother to set the trial there. And it's not until the very end, right before the last boss, that you finally get into an area that is actually different from everything else you've seen. And the whole story is that you're in someone's dream, and it feels like, and you find that out as soon as you walk in, by the way, there's somebody writhing on a bed whenever you walk into the trial. And the whole idea is really convenient to be able to reuse a bunch of assets. And if that's not what they intended, I don't know why they did this. The other thing is you get to the end of the trial. We cleared last night, our group for the first time in the guild, and you get a skin, which obviously we could have looked at beforehand, right, on the PTS, but we pulled out the skin. It looks just like several other skins, or very similar. And it's not even a skin, it's body markings. And it was communicated to Finn like a year ago that we didn't like the body markings from Dreadsail Reef. We would prefer a skin. Almost no one uses those body markings. You see people walking around with Sunspire Fire and Ice skin because it looks cool. And same with the Clockworks and other ones. Skins look cool, or some of them do. And that's what we want. And they gave us another body marking that basically looks just like a bunch of others. So if you have gear on, you're not even going to be able to tell that that's what it is. And that's a lot of the reason that people want something is because they want it to be dramatic, they want it to be cool, they want it to be able to show, hey, I've done this, and it's lame. It's kind of no reason. Other things that you experience along the way, the trash pulls are some of the hardest things in the trial. You could easily argue they're harder than some of the bosses, and they're going to be extremely difficult for unorganized groups and groups that don't know how to deal with it. So people are going to be looking for guides. Obviously, I'll do one, but I feel like people should be able to go in and have a little bit more fun, and the trash not be one of the hardest things. I like that the trash is hard in ESO, but it's called trash for a reason, right? It's just getting from point A to point B. And sure, having it challenging, they have mini bosses that spawn in randomly. Sorry, I'm giving you a few spoilers here. But that spawn in randomly, and you maybe have to add them to the fight or whatever. But we didn't have a problem. We generally one-shotted all of them, and it wasn't much of an issue. Now, we had some very experienced tanks, so maybe that helps, but not super challenging and not super fun. I think it's just, again, going to be really frustrating for new groups because they're not going to know how to deal with it. And honestly, the mini bosses feel like they were like, oh, you like swapping to trash sets in between boss fights. Well, what if we throw a boss fight randomly into some of your trash sets? What will you do then? Again, maybe they were trying to eliminate people using trash sets in between boss fights, but what's actually going to happen, and they should have been able to figure this out with just like a basic thought experiment or understanding how people play the game, is that there's going to be trash setups just for this trial that are going to be able to do some single target damage or be able to do good boss damage as well. And that's what they're going to do. You can make a 1-bar build that's 80% effective. I have several on the channel if you're curious about it. And you don't need Oaken Soul Ring to be able to do it. You can still make a build that is 80% effective. and on one bar. And so what you're going to find is that people are going to have hybrid trash / boss setups for this trial is what's going to happen. So instead of reducing the number of builds, you're going to add one. It's going to go up to 3, and this trial is going to have its own, which again is going to make things very hard on everybody else that is not super sweaty and super experienced. And it's really not going to matter too much for the high end, besides being annoying and not really adding anything of value. Again, I don't know why they did this. Let's talk about gear. The gear from the trial, most of it is garbage. Yeah, one of them, you can get a set that does something similar from Hellraw Citadel, where it's a tank set that if you get low health, kind of gives you a get out of jail free card. That's what it is. It works better, sure, but no one uses the one from Hellraw Citadel, so I don't think it's better enough that people are going to suddenly start using it. So I don't know. One of the DPS sets only gives you weapon and spell damage when you're standing still, so it's encouraging people to stand there and parse and not move. I don't know how that's that fun. It's going to be highly situational. Maybe it'll be best in certain situations, but overall, to me, it just doesn't feel good when you're supposed to stand there, And then the new trial is a highly mobile trial too. So you're not even going to use the set in the trial that you get it in, because it would never be giving you the bonus because you're always having to move. Again, I just don't understand. Just kind of overall, I would just say the mechanics are uninspired. It feels like a bad 4-man dungeon, but in a 12-man format, and they didn't really change much. The scenery is mostly reused and is really disappointing. The premise feels designed so that they could reuse as much as possible, which feels really bad. The body markings, like I said, in Vet completely suck for completing the veteran content, and they're similar to other markings. And, the main thing is I don't think they can fix this. They could maybe go in and highly tweak some things to make it more difficult. I don't think it's going to make it better, or at least not that much better, because what they really need to do is have more. The whole point of trials is to have team mechanics, where someone's got to go do this, and that part of the team has got to do what they need to do, so that the other part of the team can do what they need to do. And that's what makes it really fun, is working together as a group and as a unit. And there's really not much in this like that at all. And that also is what makes trials difficult, but difficult in a really fun way. And they didn't do that. And I think that this is alarming, honestly. And if they do go in and actually manage to tweak everything to make this not quite as much of a train wreck, and maybe they could, the assets are still all reused. They still don't have those team building mechanics. They would have to add entirely new mechanics that they don't already have in it to it. And even if they did tweak everything and get it to like a level, it's frustrating because you still look at all the bugs in the game and all the things that Wayrest Sewer, the door still doesn't work. The Yolnakrin, you still are constantly DC'd. What the dragon is doing in heavy attack is still constantly DC'd, and so many more, so many bugs in the game. And if they spend all this time to tweak this so they don't look bad, but are going to continue to never fix these bugs, it just feels worse, honestly, if they did spend all this time to tweak this thing that was already bad so that they didn't look quite so bad. So I don't know what they're going to do. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that, we'll revisit this video in the future and see, maybe I was totally wrong. Maybe I'm off base on all this stuff. Maybe everybody loves it. But I'll pick a time period after everybody's kind of ranted a lot. I'll get some input from people, and we'll see if I was wrong. And I hope I am, but I don't think I am. So what does this mean for the future of ESO? Well, one thing that's been coming up a lot is the new dungeon, the 2-man dungeon. I want to point at the endless dungeon, okay? I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, I've been in an endless dungeon. You just queue random normal as a tank, and you're going to be in an endless dungeon. At least you're going to feel like it. So I don't know why that's a good thing. Also, you're going to be able to do it solo or with a companion. So what that means is that there's not going to be any mechanics that one person can't do, because companions don't do mechanics. So that means that you're basically in a 1-person arena. So it's basically a 2-person arena, not a dungeon, not something with group mechanics or anything like that. You're really in a 2-person arena. So that's going to really limit the amount of mechanics that can actually happen in the game. And then they're just going to reuse and replace all these mechanics and add different stuff to different bosses and stuff like that. Maybe it'll be fun. What's the reward structure going to be like? Why are we going to want to keep doing it? They want to make things more for casuals and not for people that are hardcore, raiders. When they said that this is going to be compared to other games, and they mentioned other games that roguelike games that it's going to be, similar to, and you look at what that means and compare it to ESO, it doesn't look good. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to do something really cool and really crazy, but we already have more dungeons than most people run. The main thing is that they want to make it for solo, for single players to run. And so I guess that's what they're doing, which is fine. Again, if you want to make Farmville, if you want to make The Sims, you want to make this not an MMO, that's fine. But you should really take the MMO title off of it so people aren't confused and people like me don't have different expectations of what this game is. And also tell us, you know, tell us that if you don't want our money and you want us to go somewhere else. If that's the situation, obviously they're never going to do that. But you know, it would feel a lot less tricked. And when they go to make another game, if they ever do, I will not be there for it. Because this is, you know, the way they've handled this and the way they communicate has been horrible. So anyways, that's it for today. I'm sorry this is such a Debbie Downer video. Hopefully we can get some more new ones out there. Silver Lining, again, the new class has some cool looking abilities. It still is a little bit disappointing, but yeah, it has some cool looking abilities and maybe that's worth it. There'll be a lot of really cool overland stuff. There'll be delves. There's like 6 delves in this. Some of the overworld stuff could be very fun. So if that's stuff you're into, I still think there's something there for you. And maybe that's what the game is, you know, but as far as from an MMO perspective or those that looking at coming back in the game or who want in-game, I don't know if it's going to be there this year. So just something to keep in mind. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.